So yesterday, as I said, I was walking around the lake in the rainstorm, and I just looked at the water, and the big drips on the lake caused these ripples. And I just saw the ripples as what happens on a second layer down in community. So that's where we're heading in this episode. We're going to uncover some of the deeper dynamics in group settings.
Let's start with the psychology of it.
So when you talk about the feeling of something going on beneath the surface, it's not just simple intuition.
There are actual theories behind these mechanisms.
Yeah, and one of the first things to mention, which we mentioned before, is transference. And that's the basic idea that people communicate far more than just the words they speak. But there's an even more specific concept that I never knew about. It was developed by this psychoanalyst called Melanie Klein, and she called it projective identification. And projective identification describes a process where there's an unconscious projection going on. The receiving person, they're not just observing those projections like consciously, intellectually, they're actually experiencing them. It's on an emotional level, and actually physically as well. We feel these things physically. That's a bit crazy. So someone might be carrying this anxiety, and the other person might suddenly find themselves feeling a little tense, maybe pressured, maybe drawn in to something, or like a sense of responsibility.
Don't I know that? Yeah, that happens to me a lot. And like, why do I suddenly feel responsible in this moment for something I don't even know about?
Yeah, that's it, exactly. And then conversely, you might feel pushed away, and you think, what's going on here? Why am I feeling this? There's no cues here to make me feel like that. Those who are receiving those signals, they are processing material that hasn't actually been consciously expressed. It's really crazy, actually.
So yeah, in a way, it is similar to what you were seeing with the ripple on the lake, the image of the ripple and the drop, the lack of the drop. You see the ripple, but where's the drop? What's this from?
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, exactly. So the drop hasn't been named. Yeah, but the ripple is already moving through the water, so it affects you. It's already being experienced.
And it's not just Melanie Klein's idea, is it?
No, going back a little bit further, Carl Jung, for example, he wrote about unconscious communication on some crazy levels. And he posits kind of that there is communication and relationship between unconscious minds. Jung believed that human beings communicate on levels that are far deeper than conscious speech alone. So if someone's carrying a deep suppressed feeling, that feeling is often expressed indirectly, and it influences micro expressions, the way you do eye contact, pupil dilation, vocal cadence, even timing, something as subtle as that. Body language, we know about body language. And these signals are processed below conscious awareness. So we pick up on these on a very, very subtle level that we don't even know we're doing it. Just as the people who are displaying this behavior, it's unconscious, it's just happening. It takes a lot of training actually to turn that off. And unfortunately, trauma is usually the training that you need to turn that off. As some people know through early childhood trauma, you learn to switch these things off very quickly for your own safety. But just as that, we receive it unconsciously as well.
So some people seem to pick up on those things, don't they, without a bit more than others?
Yeah, we all do it, but some are more attuned to it. Childhood trauma sometimes turns off the transmission, but it ramps up the receiving of these cues, of these subconscious cues for survival. And it's actually a gift if you can redeem that trauma. Someone can walk into a room immediately feeling that something is wrong, and no one said anything. There's no indication. Or they can sit with the person and they feel sadness, they feel tension. So the conscious mind may not yet have evidence, but the body already has registered something.
Wow. People often talk about coming into a room and there's an atmosphere.
Yes, so there's an actual concept called limbic resonance. So we got this limbic system, which is, some people call it the reptilian brain. It's like a kind of older development of our brains. And we influence each other's emotional states through this limbic system. That's why it's called limbic resonance. Just like, remember, resonance is the way that microwave works. It heats up the water in whatever you put in the microwave. So it resonates and it produces heat just through the resonance of the particles resonating at the frequency that will make water boil. So it's the same with this limbic system. I think there is some research and science that we're going to find out in years to come that we are fearfully and wonderfully made on that level. I think it's actually a really healthy system that God has put into us. But that limbic system is the part of the brain that's heavily involved in attachment, social bonding, and fundamentally it kind of shows me that we're not supposed to be isolated, emotionally isolated individuals. Our nervous systems are designed to interact with each other on this level. And I think this is where I believe small groups and learning to be in mature communities where there's an awareness of this and it happens. I think this is how we can really grow on the deeper level than we do in this society that we know now. We need to learn the skill of that again.
So that would explain the tension side of this that can be felt before anyone speaks.
Yeah, exactly. So it helps explain why grief can fill a room, and conversely, why peace can settle over a whole group, why one person's anxiety can affect everyone else, or why a calm and grounded person who walks in can help regulate the entire gathering, and I've experienced that many times. So the atmosphere is not an imagination, it's real, and it's the result of our communal nervous systems interacting and resonating with each other in the room.
It really gives credence to the, weep with those who weep, rejoice with those who rejoice.
Yeah. That's actually in Romans when we were talking about the butterfly, the metamorphosis idea. And yeah, the context of Romans 12 verse 15. Let me just read it. Rejoice with those who rejoice, weep with those who weep. That's not our focus to uncover the text of the Bible at the moment. We just want to talk about this. But just as a brief aside, it was in the mix of Jews, Gentiles, coming together, one new man kind of aspect, and it was this kind of coming against the community that is divided. And it is within that context actually that scripture really is speaking into. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, because it helps us to understand that resonating with each other is part of what community is fundamentally about.
Yeah, absolutely.
So when we're talking about community, we're talking much more than conversation, visible, audible conversation.
Yes, exactly. There's the conversation we think we're having, the words, the ideas, the prefrontal cortex, the place where we think on a higher level. But underneath, there's also actually what psychologists sometimes describe as an unconscious field, or another way of putting it, an interactive field. So where emotions, projections, desires, fears, these ripples, unresolved issues are being communicated. It's a bit like we're sitting in a room and flying around the room our television channels, our radio channels, our digital information, GPS pulses, There's a lot of noise in the room that's there, but we can't necessarily tune into it. But it's there, and we have tuners within us that are deeper than our prefrontal cortex, deeper than our conscious brain, that we absorb ourselves in when we come together as a community. Whether you like it or not, it's happening. And I think it's good to have knowledge on this because knowledge is power when it comes to this. Knowledge is maturity, to be honest.
Yeah, I like that. Knowledge is maturity, yeah. Once you know this, we can start entraining ourselves to come back to original design on that level.
Yeah, I think God has designed us like that. We are not individuals. That's a Western modern idea. We are, on a fundamental level, as we spoke in other conversations, we're all one. And this is part of the oneness that we, I think, have lost in a story of separation, which we'll go into in, I don't know how many episodes' time when we talk about the economic system breakdown and Charles Eisenstein's ideas about the new world of interbeing that we are transitioning into, which is fascinating when we get there. But if you want to look him up, Charles Eisenstein.
And Torah digs this stuff up, as we said.
Yeah, the Torah is, I believe, is an ancient psychological manual. It's very, very wise, and that's its. I think that's its aim on a fundamental level, to sort ourselves out on a level that's a bit deeper and ultimately communally. As you see in the Torah, it's all about community. And when we fast forward, as we said before, to Revelation, we see a city descending, and the city is a picture of a community working beautifully, perfectly. It's, really fascinating to look into that, but this isn't our remit today, so let's just keep diving in.
So we do studying of Torah. It teaches us about our deep places, individually and communally, ideally. That's where we end up.
That means part of the work is not only understanding the text, and this is why I feel this is really important, because we're good at studying the text, but we're slightly less good, maybe unskilled, at understanding what to do when the text stirs up. The text is creating ripples. What do we do with those ripples? And even without the text, what do we do with the interpersonal ripples that community is going to bring?
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. And not in a paranoid way, not in a way that turns every feeling into a psychological diagnosis.
Goodness me, I've experienced people who are way too deep, that it's just a bit scary. It's like, I just don't want to go there with you, because I know it's going to turn into some kind of paranoia conversation.
Yeah, we don't want to, we're not talking about that. We're talking about a mature way of handling this. So it's maturity with awareness, really.
Yeah, to recognise how often ripples moving through a community before anyone has identified the drop that caused them, and sometimes long before it's consciously spoken, and people are already going to be feeling its effects. So number one is acknowledging it. Number one is awareness of this, and we're going to dive a bit deeper. And we're just going to have a little break here, and we're going to dive a bit deeper into some more information that we uncovered about what the mechanisms might be under the surface that we might be experiencing.